Welcome back to the Voice of Hope. I'm Andrea Kaczynski, and I am the creator of the Voice of Hope. And September is Chiari Awareness Month. Chiari Malformation is the condition that I have suffered with for many years. And I wanted to come on and tell you my story of Chiari Malformation. Hi, Sadie. Nice to see you. And who else is joining? I can't tell who that is, but welcome. Um, oh, hey, Sherry. Hey. Thank you guys for joining. And I thought I would start out tonight and tell you a little bit of my story and the story behind the Voice of Hope and how it got started, why I decided to start the Voice of Hope, and just a little bit of my journey. And all month long, I'm going to have guests on with different stories. Uh, they have battled all different things with Chiari Malformation. And that's why I want to have on different guests because a lot of you, I think I've seen a meme that says, all Chiarians are like giraffes. None of us have the same spots. And that's so true because we all may have similarities in things that we went through, but yet different. And that's why I think it's very important to have so many stories on that are different because there might be someone out there who doesn't know what they have and they may hear my story or your story because they're all different and they may relate to it and be able to connect the dots like we did and maybe figure out what's going on with them. So I'd like to welcome everyone that's joined. Maria, uh, Sadie, I think that's Megan or Stephanie, and Sherry. And anyone else that's joined, welcome you guys. And I know most of you guys have suffered with the same condition. And Sadie, Sadie Hudson was just on Friday night and she told her story. And the reason I started the Voice of Hope, I'll start out with that, is because about 3 years ago was the very first time I even found out that there was an awareness month for Chiari Malformation. And it took me most of my life. I'm not afraid to tell how old I am. I am 49. I've been near-death experiences quite a few times, and I'm happy to be here. So, hey, Cassie, thank you for joining. So, some of you who have been newly diagnosed, or you may be much younger than me, I want to give you hope. When you hear me say, I am 49 years old, I've battled this most of my life, and my days aren't easy, but I'm still here, and you're still here. And even though our stories still may be difficult, and we may have tough days, and we don't feel like going on, as long as we're alive, there's always hope that we can get out there. Maybe that next doctor you go see might have some answers. He might have some knowledge of this condition that we, are looking for, that he can help us with. And I had pretty much given up on even finding another doctor, to be honest, after about 4 years ago. Because like I said, I had went most of my life. I did not know what I had. And I didn't want to tell my story last year. At 48 years old, I thought, why tell my story of this condition that I've battled all my life? What good is it going to do? But 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, I had a bad episode where my whole body went into some kind of total shock. I had went to have some MRIs done again. Was having some new issues, and they didn't know what it was. They did MRIs all over my body from head to toe, brain, everything. They still couldn't find out what was wrong. And after I'd had these x-rays, I had come home, and on my way home, I went in, my whole body just started shaking. I didn't know what was happening. I got home and I went to bed, and I had to sleep for like 6 days. I did not know if I was going to wake up the next day. It was hard to breathe. It was horrible. And I started going to a bunch of new doctors. Didn't know what was wrong. Went to numerous neurologists. And I originally had my decompression surgery done in June of 2006. And at that time, I was diagnosed in 2005, 14 years ago. And when I was diagnosed in 2005, I never heard of any coexisting condition. I didn't know that there was anything else that possibly could go along with Chiari. I had been searching for many, many, many years. I mean, I'm talking since my early 20s to try to find someone who would listen to me. And it had gotten so bad that I was sleeping up. Hi, Angela Presser. Thank you for joining. And I want to welcome all of you people that are new to the Voice of Hope. Welcome. I want to welcome you to the Voice of Hope. And I was sleeping at this point, sitting up in a recliner. And I didn't know what was happening. It was May of 2005, and I was, let me see, I was 35 years old. And at this point, up until this point, I had had many things happen to me, many things. I was paralyzed at one point. I was paralyzed for about 3 or 4 days. They did not know what was wrong with me. I had moved from Tennessee. I'm originally from Tennessee. And I had moved to Florida. And I thought possibly it was the stress of the move. And I went to get one of my children from school one day. They were very little at the time. And by the time I got back to my home and into my driveway, my legs were totally dead. I could not feel them. So my son had helped me out of the car. I was able to get in my home. And for the next 3 or 4 days, I could not walk. I couldn't barely feel my legs. They didn't know what was wrong with me. I was in a state, I had no insurance. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. So after about the 4th or 5th day, I started regaining feeling in my legs again. And a friend recommended that I go to a chiropractor. Well, let me tell you this. A lot of you who know this, you may have went to a chiropractor. I would recommend to never go to a chiropractor if you have Chiari, because this is what happened to me. So I went to a chiropractor. I thought, okay, I had had 2 car accidents probably 6 or 7 years previously. I thought possibly I had some kind of herniated disc, neck, back, or somewhere in the spine that was causing this paralysis. Well, I go to a chiropractor, right? He adjusts me. When he adjusted me to the left side of my neck, the whole left side of my body went numb. Couldn't feel my face, couldn't feel my tongue, my mouth, I couldn't swallow. And I was just terrified. And I looked at the chiropractor and I said, "Stop, you've done something to me." He had took x-rays previously, but they were just standard x-rays. There weren't MRIs, CAT scans, nothing like that to see in depth. And he said, "Oh, you're okay. It's just the adjustment." And he said, "Your bones have got to settle." And I said, "No, it's not the adjustment. Something's wrong with me." Well, what had happened, because the brain was herniating, I didn't know that. When he twisted my neck, he hit some nerves in there, and I had some instability in my neck. And bone C7 was pretty loose at this time, which I didn't know. And when he twisted me, everything, I think, come out, and he could have killed me. I could have had a stroke. I'm here by the grace of God. I'm lucky that I did not die by that chiropractic adjustment. So anybody out there who is thinking about going to see a chiropractor with any condition like this, I would not recommend it at all, because I could be paralyzed for the rest of my life. So I went home and I didn't know what was happening. The office had not closed. It was 4:30 and I called back and I said, I still can't feel parts of my body. He said, you're going to be okay. He just kept saying, you're going to be okay. And so a couple of days passed and I started to feel my body again. I started to feel fine. I thought, maybe he's right. Maybe it was the adjustment. So I called up the office and I said, well, since you guys adjusted me and I had these issues, I thought I would say, well, can you work in some massages, something, because I'm still in a lot of pain. So they said, yes. I said, no adjustments. I don't want no adjustments. So they massaged me. They put like a TENS unit on me, and it seemed to calm down the muscles in my body. And I just went on about my life after about 2 weeks of that. And that was in the spring of 1997. And this is 8 years before I was even diagnosed. So I had the paralysis. I got through that. And then I started back to work, went to a job. I started losing feeling in my left side of my leg again. And I would have numbness on the left side of my body again. And I would get like dizzy spells. And sometimes my left eye would look like, I don't know if you guys know what a kaleidoscope is, but it would look almost like a bee. You know how a bee you might have seen when you were a kid, they see in all these different dimensions. That's the way my eye would do. And sometimes the vision would go in and out. It would just scare me, terrify me. And then this eye over here would do similar things too. I would see really weird things, colorations, and I could be looking at the TV or something like that, and I would look away, and I would still see the images that were on the TV. And I did not know what was happening to me, but I kept working my job. And oh, hi, Jenny. And I kept working my job, and still not knowing what was wrong with me. In 2002, I had to take a medical leave of absence from that job because it was customer service, and I got to where I couldn't speak for long periods of time. My throat would feel like it was closing up, and I started getting the weakness in my legs again. I started having digestive issues. This is before, Sherry, this is before I ever had surgery. This was in 2002. I wasn't diagnosed until 2005. I was in my early 30s. It took me many, many years. It took me at least, I started having symptoms when I was about 20, 19, 20, and I didn't get diagnosed until I was 35 in 2005. And yeah, it was way before surgery. And so we moved up to 2002, and I still was starting to have a lot of these symptoms. So I took a hiatus from my job for a while. I took a medical leave of absence. During that medical leave of absence, I lost extreme amounts of weight, extreme amounts. I couldn't eat hardly anything. No meats, no bread, sugar. I mean, I was down to eating just like saltine crackers and pear baby food and drinking water. Yes, that's all I could eat just to keep my body alive. I don't know how I stayed alive at that time. It was just by the grace of God. And the doctor ran a bunch of blood work. They did not know what was wrong with me. The only thing they discovered is they discovered at that point I had no iron in my body. So they sent me to a oncologist, a cancer doctor. He ran a bone marrow. He did a bone marrow test on me. I think they did some spinal taps at that time to check for ALS, MS, all other of the neurological diseases, even checked for Lyme disease. All that came back negative, everything. And they wanted to give me a blood transfusion because they didn't know how I was functioning with no iron in my body. And so I said no. So I sat with the cancer patients for a year and a half, and I had iron infusions, and I had B12 shots. And after a year and a half, my iron has stayed up now for over 10 years. And They didn't know how I made it back. One doctor said, "You'll never be able to eat normal again. You're just going to have to accept this. We don't know how long you're going to live." Um, oh, wow. Welcome, Melissa. Same with you with the chiropractor. Yes, it was a horrible experience. Never go to a chiropractor with Chiari. Never. And I had doctors telling me that we don't know what to do with you. It's all in your head. We always hear it's all in our head. Um, you know, you're just going crazy because they had did spinal taps. They had did uh, the bone marrow where they cut a piece of, go in and cut a piece out of your hip to see if I had cancers. They did all kind of PET scans, CAT scans, MRIs of the brain, of the total spine. I'd had so many MRIs done by this time, with contrast, without contrast. Been to every neurologist you could think of here locally. I had been to endocrinologists. I had been to infectious disease doctors. I literally had been to just about every kind of specialist you could think of. Urologist, everything. No joke. I had just about every doctor. Yeah, and my iron was it was like hospitalization low. They wanted to give me a blood transfusion. And they did classify me because some of my blood work came back and it said my titer scale was off, and your titer scale can tell if you have an autoimmune disease. They classified me as autoimmune unknown because they didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it was. So, there's still some possibilities there. I still have no answers for that. So, oh wow, Melissa, I'd love to hear more about your story. So, thank you, Jenny. You're a blessing too. Uh, Thank you, Maria. Thank all you guys for joining, because all of us have been in such a battle with this, and we have to learn to be our own advocate. And anybody out there that has been going through this for years, you know that we have to just keep fighting for ourselves and not give up, because some days we want to give up because we went through this for so long. But we're still here, and I'm not going to give up, and I don't want you to give up. That's why I continue to do the Voice of Hope. I took a couple months off of the Voice of Hope this summer and was really discouraged because I wasn't feeling well myself. And I came back for you guys because I want you guys to keep fighting. I want to keep having these stories on here because I want us all to find answers. And every time I hear one of your stories, it gives me hope. Because we do feel like we're going insane sometimes because doctors will not listen to us. But there is hope. And I believe that, Melissa. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It is true. They sent me to a neuropsychologist, and I passed all these tests, and he's like, "It's not in your head." I was like, "No, it's not. There is something wrong with my body." And so that was 2002, so we come all the way up to 2004, and I had started a new job. I would love to hear your story, Melissa. Maybe we can talk after the show or tomorrow. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear all your stories. And what happened is, yes, we're so much stronger together because I wanted to stay quiet about what was going on with me. Only my immediate family knew. That's why I didn't come out and tell my story till last year. Because I thought, what's the use? I mean, who am I going to help? I'm still having all these issues. But I've met so many wonderful people like you ladies that's on here, and some men too. Some of my brothers have been on here too. And you have blessed me so much by sharing your stories with me and give me hope. And so I got all the way up to 2004. And I was working at this job for a while, and I was doing pretty good again until one day I started getting really sick again. And I was feeling faint at my job, and it was getting really bad. And before I told my story tonight, I was thinking about this. And I remember that day in May of 2005, I was packing my office up. I had to resign from that job. Thank you, Sherry. Bless you. I had to resign from that job, and I was really depressed at this point. I didn't know where my life was going, and I remember as I kept packing away everything in the office that day, I said, someday, I don't know when, but someday, God, when I'm able to do more with my life and I find out what's going on with me, I want to get out there and I want to spread hope to other people that they can make it through all of this mess that I've had to go through, that they can make it. Well, that was 14 years ago. I didn't know what the next 14 years of my life was going to entail. And that year, I just call it, this next 2 years was these years of hell. It got extremely worse. I got to the point to where I was sleeping up in a recliner. And I was trying to find the pictures tonight, and that was 14 years ago. I could not find them. And yes, welcome everyone. And I could not find the pictures of me sitting in the recliner. And all I could do was sit like this in a big recliner and put the recliner up and sleep. And I would pray every night that I was going to wake up the next day, because I didn't know if I was going to wake up the next day. Because every time I would try to sleep in bed and I would try to lay flat, I felt like somebody was holding their hand over my throat. I felt like I was choking. And I felt like my heart was going to beat out of my chest. And I felt like my face would go numb and my ears would start severely ringing. And so I just didn't attempt to lay down no more for a long time. So, yes, it was totally in the wilderness. Yes. Because I'm 49 and I feel like I've searched for years. And I call this the silent years, because when I come out last year and I told my story, people were like, because I'm an event coordinator, I don't do that as much anymore because it's hard on me. And when I finally told my story last year, they're like, oh my gosh, and I know you guys have gotten this, you look so normal. And we never knew that. We never knew you were going through all this. Why didn't you tell us? And I thought, well, what was the use of telling you? You know, I didn't want to seek pity. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I got a call. I didn't want them to see me as, being pitiful. So I just didn't tell my story. And hi, Colette. That's my daughter. And hi, Belinda Rodriguez. Thank you for joining. And so back to 2005, a friend of mine had recommended that I go see this doctor in Orlando that she had been seeing. And I said, no, there's no real use to go see him. I've been to every doctor there is known to mankind. She said, why don't you give it a shot? Because by this point, I couldn't feel my arms. I couldn't drive a car. It was hard for me to shower, and my hair was long like it is now. It was hard for me to even shower my hair. And my kids, they're grown now. They remember a lot of this. They'd have to help me blow dry my hair. And I'm a 49 twin Chiari sister, darling. Thank you, Melissa. Yes, we are twin sisters. I think we are. You're going to have to tell me your story. And so I went to this doctor. I called him up, and it was a waiting list. It took me like 5 months to get in to see him. And in this time, I was freaking out. My arms were getting more numb, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to lose function in my legs again because I had did that before. I was just like totally terrified. I could barely eat. And then just being able to sit in a chair day after day for almost 24 hours was just so depressing. I didn't want to live my life like that. And so finally, if any of you guys out there have ever heard this joke, I'm going to tell you a joke about having Chiari. You've probably heard it. You have Chiari if you have to walk into a doctor's office and your medical records are so big that you have to have someone to carry them for you. Because by this point, this was October of 2005. And my husband, back in the day in 2005, they still had the x-rays. All the MRIs were on these films. They were on these big, long films. They weren't on discs like they make them now where they're small. And yeah, they do, Jenny. I get that a lot too because it is an invisible condition. And so my husband carried all these medical records. It's 15 years worth by this point. And yeah, Melissa, 4 folders. I know. And you learn to be your own advocate. And so you have Chiari when you overwhelm the disability attorney. Yeah, that's true too, Sadie. I've been there with that too. That is so true. And so I walked into this neurologist. I wasn't expecting to get any answers, to be honest. And he looks at all the medical records, and I had sent a few of them in before my visit. And when I walked in, then my husband handed them to the nurse, and he goes back out to the lobby. And she's like, wow, you're organized. And I said, well, I thought it's best you have all my records. She goes, how many years is this? I said, I don't know, 15 years or more. She's like, oh. She goes, well, it may take the doctor a minute to go over this. So I sit in the office, and he came in and introduced himself, and he said, what are your symptoms? And I went through a little bit of it. And he says, okay, give me a few moments. He goes out of the office. And let me get a drink of water. He comes back in the office after probably about 20 minutes, somewhere in there. And I didn't think he was going to come back. I thought, oh, he's just going to probably tell the nurse, get her out of here because I don't know what's wrong with her. So he comes back in the office, and he says, I know what you have. And I said, oh, yeah, right, because I had heard it all. And he said, you have this condition called Chiari Malformation. And I said, what is that? What is that? And he said, well, that's not all. You have some stability in your neck, and you have some stability in your back. And I was like, whoa, I don't know what any of this means. And he said, well, first of all, we'll start with the Chiari. And I said, well, what is the Chiari? Where is it? How did you find it? He said, well, it's a herniation in your from your brain. And I said, I don't understand why nobody ever seen this before, and how are you able to see it? Well, now this is really important. He was not a true Chiari specialist, and lots of you know that there's so many Chiari specialists in the world. Hi, Leanne, and any of you guys that have joined late. There's only so many true Chiari specialists. I got very blessed by the grace of God to find a doctor who had some patients with this and did some surgeries, decompressions, and knew what this was. And he said, well, your herniation is very small. And it was so small, he put the films up on, back then, like I said, it wasn't digital. Hi, Lynn. And he put the films up, he lighted the board and they placed the film on it, and then you can see it that way. And he said, this is where your herniation is. Well, I couldn't see anything herniating. That's how small it was. And it was like so small. You know how the hole is in our skull? I mean, it was like, I don't know, it was maybe like that. It was very hard to see. And I didn't know at the time, it does not matter how large or how small the herniation is. It matters on how symptomatic you are. I was very symptomatic. And I think it depends on, too, how the brain is sagging in the area it is and how it's affecting the flow. Well, he ran more tests on me, and I didn't have any cyst in the spine, shrinks, or anything like that. He said that it was because of the Chiari. It's because I couldn't lay down. That's why I was suffocating. I wasn't totally blocked, but I was close to being totally blocked. And C7, when I was laying down, the last bone in the neck would go out of place. And he said, I don't understand how you're still living. And he said, because that is not normal for somebody to be walking around with the bone in your neck so loose that you just turn and it just come out. So they had to start with this. I said, first of all, he said, there's a surgery we can do to relieve some of this pressure. And it's not a cure. Of course, we all know it's not a cure. And he said it could alleviate some of your symptoms and possibly give you a better quality of life. And I said, no. I don't want to even think about that right now. And I said, I'll do the neck because, I don't want to walk around with this vertebrae coming out, and I could die any minute if it hits an artery coming out. I could have a stroke, he said. So in February of 2006, I had the C7 replaced, a fusion in my neck. They had to go in from the front because it was too dangerous to go in from the back. And so they replaced the C7. And that was, February 2006. And in March, April, May, at the end of March, I went back for a checkup. And he had did some new MRIs. And he had did some new scans of my neck and everything. And he said, we need to make a decision about your brain because it's still the same. And I don't know how long you're going to be able to live like this before it gets completely blocked. I could have died in my sleep. And I really didn't want to do it. And I would not recommend the decompression unless it was an emergency case like mine. And I would recommend, if you find out that you have Chiari Malformation, do research. Find out about all the coexisting conditions. The Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, dysautonomia, POTS, all those other. Do a lot of research. I didn't do any research. I didn't even know there was any coexisting conditions at that point. This was, like I said, 14 years ago. And I just thought it was this Chiari malformation. I didn't know anything else about any other condition. And I just wanted my quality of life to be better. So I said, okay, let's do this. Just 3 months previous, I'd had the neck surgery. So the next month was the 4th month after my neck surgery, and I went into brain surgery, June the 29th of 2006. That's why I started the Voice of Hope, June the 29th of last year. because that was 13 years since my surgery. So, of course, I went in and, he told me all the risk. You could come out, you could not live through it. It's only 50-50 chance. You could be paralyzed. All of you guys that have had this done, you've all heard it. And I got up to the parking lot of the hospital here in Orlando, and I jumped out of the car and I said, no, I'm not going to do this. And no, at that time, yeah, intracranial hypertension. I wasn't checked for that either. And that is something important to be checked for too. And at that time, I almost didn't go through with the surgery, but I thought, I don't want to live my life sleeping in a chair, sitting up the rest of my life. And I don't want this to be my quality of life. So I walked through the hospital doors crying and not knowing if I would come out of the hospital alive. I had left letters in my home for my husband to give to my children if I died during surgery, and to my family. And because I didn't know, you don't know if you're going to come out alive. And so I go through surgery, right? And when I wake up, I was laying flat. And I hadn't laid flat at this point for over a year. And of course, I'm laying flat on the bed. And I just had brain surgery. I'm in ICU, and I started crying. And the nurse said, it's okay. You made it. You made it to the surgery. And I said, I'm laying flat. I'm laying flat. And I wasn't suffocating no more. And I could breathe. My heart wasn't racing. She said, you're going to be okay. And my left eye was even clear. The vision of my left eye had cleared up. And so I was 4 or 5 days in ICU, and then they moved me to a regular room, and I came home, and it was a long, long, long recovery. It was almost 2 years of recovery. I still couldn't use my arms very well for a long time. And I'm so grateful for my children, because the doctor was so sweet. I had my hair long like this, and he just simply cut a strip down the back of my head and braided my hair to the side without shaving all my hair off. And so my kids would still help me blow dry my hair and stuff, after they took all the staples out from having the decompression surgery. And moved on to 2008, and I started getting much, much better. Started driving again. I felt like a kid driving, again. I hadn't drove for 2 years. And I did pretty well for about 3.5 years. I did pretty well. My first grandchild was born in 2008. And I think back now of all these years I've fought. And I realize sometimes I wonder why, do so many of us keep continuing to fight. But I feel like sometimes we're kept alive. Not another day for us, but another day to help someone else. Because I'm now raising my oldest grandchild. He's 11 years old. And homeschooling him. And doing a few things after all I've been through. And when I look back, I think, what if I had given up then? Where would he be? And so keep holding on no matter what you're going through, because your family and there's people around you watching you, and they see your strength. And I know it's hard some days, but don't ever give up. Keep fighting. And I kept fighting, and in 2011, I had to have my neck reconstructed. And because I started having more instability issues. And that surgery was not too bad. And then after 2011, I did pretty good until 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, I had never met anyone who had Chiari Malformation. No one. I thought I was the only person in the world that had Chiari. Joking, but really, I thought, I've never heard of no one else that has Chiari. And the doctor told me he had a few patients that had Chiari, but I had never met them. And every time I went to the office, nobody in there had Chiari. And he moved out of state, so I had no neurosurgeon no more. I had no neurologist. So I started having all these new issues 4 years ago. And 3 years ago, I started seeking a new neurologist, went to him. Nobody's been able to figure out these new issues. I went, and I highly recommend this, going on to the Chiari and Syringomyelia website. I went on there, and I got in contact by phone with Kathy Posnick. She is awesome. Well, if any of you guys are looking for any conferences by any doctors in your state or close to you that are true Chiari specialists, go to that site. I went to that site, and Dr. Eric Trumbull, some of you may know him, he was here in Florida. And he was one of the doctors in the world that was a true Chiari specialist. And I thought, wow, there is a doctor right here in Florida who is a true Chiari specialist. So I called up this organization because I seen he was going to have a conference here in Florida. And when I called this lady, she's like, yeah, you want to attend? We'll put your name down. So many guests can come and stuff like that. And she told me where it's going to be. I said, yeah, I want to come. Oh my gosh. When I went in there, they had this big, huge, gigantic cake. It said, I think it said celebrating Chiari and Syringomyelia. There was probably about 50 people there, maybe 75. People from all over the world had came there. Everybody had Chiari and had Syringomyelia. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not an alien. There is other people out there that has this condition. And I sit down at this table, and Kathy Posnick got up and she said, can each one of you stand up and tell when you was diagnosed? And there was people that were young, people that were my age, younger, older, all different ages. Even there was some people that had traveled from Australia just to see Dr. Trumbull and be at this conference. And then they took us into the big conference room, and here comes Dr. Trumbull. He had just come out of his office. He was still in his doctor uniform. And wonderful doctor. And he had a whole team of neurosurgeons, a whole team of nurses and everything set up just for these surgeries. He's now in South Dakota. So any of you watching who is in that area in South Dakota for Dr. Trumbull, he's an awesome doctor. He really is. Well, I sat there in awe and listened to him because this is the first time I had ever met anyone that had Chiari. He started talking about all the coexisting conditions, the EDS, the neurogenic, you can have a neurogenic bladder, tethered cord, dysautonomia, POTS, you can have a lot, intracranial hypertension, the pressure in the head, rheumatologic conditions, a lot of inflammation in the body, and just all kind of stuff. Well, I'm sitting there like shocked because I didn't know any of this, and he was saying if you're just newly diagnosed. You really should be tested for all this stuff. And I'm thinking, holy cow. I thought I had Chiari and that's it. And here you're telling me I could have all this other stuff? I wanted to jump up and run out of that conference, to be honest. And, but I sat there and I kept listening, kept taking notes. And then he started to say that it's possible that this can be genetic, it can be hereditary. And then that's when I was like, hold up. I said, Dr. Trumbull, can I ask you a question? I said, my father died at 50 years old of cancer, not of Chiari. I have no way of knowing what happened to him. But when I was 5 years old, he was paralyzed. And then from that point on, he got better, just like me when I was paralyzed. I said, and he had all kinds of symptoms throughout his life, and we never knew what was wrong. Is it a possibility he had Chiari? He said, well, I can't say, but there is a possibility, yeah. And because it has been known to be in different families. Well, since then, I have found out I'm the oldest of 3 children, and I have a baby brother who has ankylosing spondylitis, which is a connective tissue disorder. I have a middle brother who has rheumatoid arthritis. They were all diagnosed at a very young age, in their early 30s. I was diagnosed at 35 with Chiari, and I think, now this has not been proven, but just listening to Dr. Trumbull and other doctors, that these connective tissue disorders, I think everyone who has a connective tissue disorder, Chiari is a symptom of it, because the connective tissue is what holds our brain into place. And there's so many connective tissue disorders that can affect our entire body. And I think I have never been diagnosed with EDS. I have not got that testing yet. I'm still working on that. But I think that is a possibility after listening to him. Well, when he started telling us all these things, he recommended that you get tested for all these other conditions. This is how good of a doctor he is. I went up to him after the conference and I said, hey, I had surgery this many years ago. I don't have a neurosurgeon. I don't know what to do. He said, I tell you what. He says, go to your regular physician, order tell him you need a CT flow MRI of your brain for the study of the flow to make sure it's going properly, an entire MRI scan of the brain, of the cervical area and the lumbar and the thoracic, the whole entire spine. And then also I had flexion and extension x-rays on my back, where you lean your neck back and they see if bones are coming out, and you lean your low back to see if bones are coming out, to see if there's instability. So I went and had all of these x-rays done, right? They were sent, I went to my regular doctor. He ordered them, and he sent copies to Dr. Trumbull. Dr. Trumbull emailed me in the evening after looking at these x-rays. I didn't even have an appointment with him. And he said, I've reviewed your x-rays, and they all look good. And he said, your flow is good. You don't have no cyst. There's no, I don't see any bones coming out. I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know. And he said, at this point, I would recommend that you going and seeing someone for genetic testing to check for EDS, and possibly like POTS and dysautonomia and stuff like that, were the things that was going on with my body. So I was at a loss. I didn't know what to do. Again, no answers for the other things that was happening. So that was just a few years ago when that happened, and I started to connect with a group that I've met many of you out of called the Chiari Sisters. And that's when that sparked the interest of me of starting the Voice of Hope. And I remembered what I had prayed the day in 2005 when I resigned from that job, that someday when I knew what was wrong with me, I wanted to spread hope to others. And I said, I want to do this. And I didn't know how to do it. And some of you may not know, but I have a podcast, and that's where I started. It's like a radio show. And I started there June 29th of 2018. And I started telling a little bit of my story. In August of last year, I told a little bit of my story, not like I'm telling you today, because I was so nervous still. It was the first time I had ever completely come out and told my story. And since that day, I have met so many of you people. I have learned so much about these other conditions that it's so important that we're our own advocate, that we keep medical records, that we always take all these MRIs with us. I just got an MRI done 2 months ago, and the neurologist said we don't see nothing wrong. Well, you don't see nothing wrong, but I'm still having all these issues and stuff. I'm keeping that X-ray, that MRI. I'm going to find someone who will listen to me and get that genetic testing, because I want to find answers for my family too, because if this is something that has been passed down from my family, I want to find out from my children and future generations. And that's why it's so important that we're our own advocates. So that is how the Voice of Hope got birthed, is through all of my struggles through most of my life. And I wanted to come on here tonight and tell you my story. I didn't mean for it to be so long, but that's why I continue to do this. I don't do it for me. I do it for you. And I love when you guys have the courage to come on and tell your stories, because I know it's not easy, because it wasn't for me. But it also was very freeing to finally come out from behind that mask of smiling and saying, I'm fine, I'm okay. When really inside I was in excruciating pain every day and I wasn't okay. And just letting people, I don't go around and talk about my story all the time still now today. Since it's September, I come out and really tell my story. And I've told it a few times since then. But, when I'm having a bad day now, a lot more people understand. And research, yes, Jenny, research is so important. Connect with a support group in your own state. And what I mean by that is like some of you who may be here in Florida, like you can go to Florida Chiari Malformation Group. And connecting with people in your own home state, you can ask in there, is there any doctors in the state here in this part of my town or whatever that you've went to and that are good doctors, and connect with other big, large groups. Like Chiari Sisters is a big group for women. And you can go in there and ask questions. A lot of people know doctors. Sometimes you have to travel to find a good doctor. And if you don't have a Chiari group in your own state, you could be the one to create it. By starting say if you live in Tennessee, Alabama, California, and you don't have one, you could create one on Facebook and start to bring in other people that has Chiari in your state, and you guys could help each other in your own state, just like the one here in Florida does. And then, this Chiari and Syringomyelia Foundation, that is a good group on Facebook to go to. They put in all the Chiari walks every year, and yeah, I didn't even know there was a month for Chiari awareness until 3 years ago, that day at Dr. Trumbull's conference. Um, any Australians, please look up. Oh, Melissa Hoffman is from Australia. And in the comments here, she said, any Australians, please look up. And she's giving different uh, hashtags. Look at her comments here if you're from Australia. Yes, if you're in different parts of the world, share in the comments places that you get information from, because it'll help people in your part of the world. And if you have those websites, share them to my page. I can share them here on the Voice of Hope and my personal page, because I didn't know a lot about these too. Oh, you started it. Okay, for same reasons. Oh, and you're the admin of the other two. Oh, wow. Melissa, you need, yeah, share that information. Share those pages to my messenger, or share it to my personal page, and then I'll share it over to the Voice of Hope, because people needs to hear stuff like this. Oh, good for you, Melissa. Good for you. See, that's what I'm talking about. If you don't have a group in your state you live in, create one like Melissa did, and then you can pull in other people. It's so good that we support each other. I talk to so many of you guys. Some I've talked to you by phone, some only by messenger. But you guys, you lift me up more than you know. I would love to have every one of you on here to tell your story, but I'm only one person. But share your stories. Yes, I know, Angela. Isn't that awesome? That is awesome, Melissa, that you did that. It's so awesome. Share your story wherever you share your stories. If you share it in writing, you don't have to do it on a video like I do. Tag me in it, and I'll share it on my personal page and put it on the Voice of Hope if you want me to. I love sharing other people's stories, because what you went through may be what somebody else is going through, because we all go through different journeys with this, and you may be able to give them some hope, because we're not alone. There is so many people out there that is going through this, and I have learned so many new things. It's just amazed me and given me so much more hope, and made me want to push for myself and fight for myself again to find these answers. Oh, yes, and Jenny. Oh, I love your memes, Melissa. Yes. Melissa Hoffman, I love her memes. And she made me this beautiful, these hearts with my name on it. Said Arnold Chiari Malformation, and CM1 at the bottom, and there are these hearts with little diamonds. It's beautiful. And you can find it here on the Voice of Hope. And you can also find it on my personal page. Thank you, Melissa, for making that. But she makes some really cool things. But I won't keep you any longer. As you can tell, my voice is kind of going. But I wanted to share my story. Thank you guys for hanging in there and share this out. And I want to leave you tonight how I came up. And I wanted to ask you guys, I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced this, but even before I was diagnosed. Oh, Angela Presser, what, you have like a CPAP? Is that for the BiPAP? Is that for sleep apnea? I take it it's for the sleep apnea. Oh, you're welcome, Leanne. Thank you guys for joining. But I have never met anyone who's had this. But the left side of my brain, even before surgery, oh, it is? Okay. It itches sometimes so bad. It feels like I could just like rip my scalp out all the way down the left side of my brain. And it'll start down to the left side of my torso sometimes. it is just crazy. I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced that in your head, in one side of your head or not, but mine's always on the left side. They can't explain it. They don't know what it is. Sometimes it will burn. It feels like it's on fire. I don't know. It's one of them crazy things that I guess some of us get. But I was just curious if anybody's ever experienced anything like that. And then I'll get burning in my eyeballs sometimes. And they say it's just inflammation. They don't know what it is. But I was curious if anybody's ever had that. But I'll leave you tonight. I know I've talked quite a bit. But that is part of my Chiari story. And you guys don't never give up. Keep telling your stories to whoever will listen. And all month long, I have someone coming on Thursday night to tell their story, and Friday night. Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll have 2 interviews next week, one on Monday and one on Thursday of next week. And then I'll have another one after that. And so share these videos out of all these stories. Oh, you're welcome, Angela. Thank you guys all for joining. And keep telling your stories to whoever will listen. Get answers from doctors and don't give up. We're worth fighting for. And I'm fighting with you to put this awareness out there. And how I came up with this name, The Voice of Hope. Thank you, Melissa, for all you do. You guys, thank you for all your posts. They encourage me. Thank you for all your information that you share. Because a lot of you guys share information and facts that I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'll see something and I'm like, oh, that is so cool. I did not know that. I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day after 14 years of being diagnosed. I've actually learned more in the past 4 years than I have learned in the very beginning. And it's really awesome because I want this knowledge to go on, to future generations or to people who listen in years to come. And anyone that comes on here and tells their story, also I download all these interviews to my podcast. So on my podcast, I'm on 7 different platforms. I'm on Anchor, Spotify. So you're not only telling your story on the Voice of Hope Facebook page, you're telling your story and it will go on a podcast, which reaches lots of people. I have like 1,800 listeners out there. So you don't know who will hear your story. You don't know what doctor might even get a hold of your story. So you don't know who's out there listening that might need help or might be able to help you. Yes, it has. In the last 4 years, the awareness, Melissa, has gotten so much better. And I am so grateful for people out there that's been before me that has, helped spread the awareness and still are. And they're doing, Catherine Love, I shared on The Voice of Hope. There was a video by this doctor out of New York. You guys can scroll down afterwards and see it. He was on the news, and he's a neurosurgeon, and he had did some new research, and they had found some new stuff out about Chiari. And so I shared that on this page. I thought that was pretty awesome. And Catherine, if you happen to watch this, thank you. And yes, Jeannie Chenault, she came on here in February or March and told her story. She also is a volunteer for an organization, and she has a Chiari Malformation page called United for Chiari Malformation. So check her page out too. She gives a lot of awareness on there too. And any of you guys that have pages, let me know about them, and I'll promote you guys too, because we're all in this together. And I'll share all that stuff out for you too. I love doing that. So I wanted to leave you tonight with how I came up with the name, The Voice of Hope. Last year before I started, remember I started as a podcast. I didn't know what I was going to call I didn't know what I was going to call this show or my podcast. So over these many, many years, I used to sing. I've not been able to sing because Chiari, like I used to, it's different. I can sing, still sing some, but not like I used to. Chiari's affected my voice. It may have taken a lot from me, but I have gained a lot too. Gained a lot of wisdom, a lot of friends. I've met a lot of beautiful people. And I still can sing. It's just I have to find a new normal. We all have to find a new normal. So, I was asleep one night, woke up in the middle of the night in June, and I was praying, God, what should I name this show? What should I name this? And because I write lots of poetry, it was 3 a.m. and I woke up. And I have this little notebook that you see right here. It says, "It is never too late to be what you might have been," by George Eliot. And, oh, you used to sing too, Melissa? Well, girl, one night I'm going to have a fun show on Chiari. We're going to do like a little Chiari karaoke on the Voice of Hope. I have a piano, and I'm learning how to play the piano. And we're going to sing. We're going to do a fun night one night. And we can still sing, Melissa. It may not be the same way, but we can still sing. Melissa, me and you will do a duet. We'll do a duet. How about that? Yeah. We'll knock the socks off of them. We still got it, girl. Don't say you haven't. We still got it. We'll have fun. Chiari's not going to take that away from us. So, here's what happened. I'll leave you with this, and then I'll let you go. I know it's getting late. I was thinking, what am I going to name this show? So I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was 3 a.m. And like I said, because I write lots of poetry, I was thinking, what is the voice of hope? It kept coming in my head, the voice of hope, the voice of hope. And so I got up, and I got this little book out that I showed you that I always write my poetry in. And I write down pieces of poems, and they don't always come together at one time. And I wanted to show you this. On this side right here, I had some little hearts, and it said, "Thrive in your tribe." I was going through a town one day, not far from here, and I seen this word, thrive, and the quote came, "Thrive in your tribe." Well, I have a tribe. It's called the Voice of Hope Tribe, if any of you want to join it. And I'm going to start to have like little prayer meetings, like once a month, and just encouraging videos, you know. It's more of a closed group. There's just a few people in there. And so it says, "Thrive in your tribe. When loving hearts collide, that's where dreams thrive. And with a beautiful soul, you'll reach your goals." Well, I do this all through this book. When I have these little things that come up. Hey, Jennifer. Thank you for joining. And, oh, you have a notebook with ideas and quotes too. Cool. That's where you come up with those awesome memes, Melissa. That's where you have some of the coolest memes. You've got to teach us how to do that. I got to have you on the Voice of Hope. You got to come on here. And so I write all these little things, you know, down all the time and stuff when they come to me. Well, that night when I heard the Voice of Hope, I was like, what's the Voice of Hope, God? What is that? So I get up, pull this notebook out, and I write down the Voice of Hope. Well, when I wrote it down, I seen all these little quotes, and I started going through there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I get it. I get it. And, oh, I would love that. I would love that. We're going to talk more later. And the show should be called The Voice of Hope, right? So that's why I named it The Voice of Hope. But here's the reason why. It's because every one of you guys that I talk to, every one of you guys that I've heard your stories, I've become friends with, you've been voices of hope to me. You might think that I'm here encouraging you, but you're encouraging me. You're giving me hope. And that's why I feel like God has gave me this name, the Voice of Hope, you all, every one of us are a voice of hope to someone. Every time we spread our stories, every time we speak out, it's a ripple effect. And you see the little flowers in my logo up above the top of the page. The red flower, I chose that deep red flower. Stood your night watch and listened to God in the voice of hope. Yay. Oh, thank you. And you're awesome, Jennifer. I love all you guys. And I put the dark red rose up there because a lot of you don't know, but the dark red rose stands for unseen treasure. And that's the way we all are. Every one of us are like that rose. It has many, many petals. And every one of us, when we come together, it makes this beautiful thing of display, just like the rose does. And we are all stronger together. And we come together, share our stories, reach out to each other if we're having a crummy day. If you can't contact me, if it's late in the night, Jennifer will tell you. If I can't talk to you, I'll give you a little voice text. I'll pray with you on a voice text. And then the next morning, I'll get up and we'll talk. But I will respond. I always try to respond if it's, no matter what time it is. And then I get back with you. Hey, Marielle. Oh my gosh. This is Marielle Morales. I'm so glad you joined. I love you. I love this lady. She's the one who pushed me to start the Voice of Hope. She pushed me, pushed me, pushed me until I finally did it. And, Marie, it's called the Voice of Hope Tribe. If you just go to Facebook and put the Voice of Hope Tribe, it's a very small group and you just request to join. And there's only like 10 or 15 people in there now. And I've not went in there a whole lot last year, but I'm going to start going there more. Oh, it's okay, Marielle. I'm glad you could join. Marielle is the one I met. I met Marielle Morales through another friend, Krista Joy, and I was one of her first students. She had a course called The Life Artist. And she said, hey, do you want to be my first student? And I said, yeah. So I joined her program, and she pushed me and kept saying, are you going to tell your story? Are you going to tell your story? And I finally did on Marielle's show last year on August the 19th. And if it wasn't for Marielle pushing me as hard as she did, I don't know if I would have did it. I might have did it in the future, but she really motivated me to do it. So thank you, girl. And she's such a voice of hope to me, too. All of you ladies are. So when I wrote down the Voice of Hope that night, when I got that in my sleep, I'm trying to read these. Oh, thank you, Marielle. Thank you. You're inspiring to me, too. Jennifer says, oh, thank you, Jennifer. You guys are voices of hope to me, too. You think that I'm the one encouraging you, but you encourage me on a lot of days that I just feel like crummy and don't feel like getting out of bed. You guys pull me through a lot of days. But I wanted to leave you with this poem. When I got up that night and I kept hearing the voice of hope in my head, I wrote it down in this book that says, it's never too late to be what you might have been. And the poem came together, and that was God showing me that we all are voices of hope. And here's the poem. I'll leave it with you tonight. It says, reach the nation with inspiration. Stop hate and learn to relate. Learn to feel free to be who you're meant to be. With a beautiful soul, you'll reach your goal. What you believe, you will achieve. When loving hearts collide, that's where dreams thrive. You are beautiful being an individual. You are unique. That's what makes you complete. Spread love and learn not to judge. Spread hope and always end on a positive note. You will see only if you believe. That's the voice of hope. And you guys all are a voice of hope. So don't ever forget that. So thank you guys all for joining tonight. Thank you guys all for being in my life, for encouraging me. And I appreciate you more than you know. I continue to do the voice of hope for us all. So reach out to me anytime. Share your stories. And let's spread awareness this month. And not just this month, but throughout the year. And just remember, you're never alone. Hi, Sandra. Thank you for joining. I was telling my story of battling Chiari Malformation. And share this out, so that others can, hear this story. And not just my story, but all the other interviews that I will have this month. Share them out. And if share your story. If you want to even share it on your personal page, if you do a little video and share it, I'll share it here if you want. So, you guys, no one, I always end my podcast and show, and I want you guys all to know, if no one has told you today, you are so loved. And do what I'm doing. Wherever you're at in your part of the world, get out there and spread some hope to someone else. Continue to tell your story. You're not alone. We're all stronger together. So thank you guys all for listening tonight and hanging in there with me. And I love you guys all so much. So I'll see you back here Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on The Voice of Hope with another story of someone who has struggled with Chiari also. So good night, everyone. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you Thursday. Bye-bye. Love you all. Bye.